We left things off with Feyre barely surviving, breaking a curse, and getting a shiny new upgrade to high fae status. Yay, right? Happy ending secured? Yeah, not so much. Now, she's stuck at the spring court, supposedly planning her fairy tale wedding to Tamlin. But here's the problem. Turns out dying and coming back to life leaves a girl with some major PTSD. Nightmares, panic attacks, an overwhelming sense that she's trapped. And Tamlin, instead of helping, he's locking her in the house like a pretty little doll. And let's not forget about Rhysand, High Lord of the Night Court, professional menace, and the guy she accidentally made a magical bargain with. And today, he's cashing in. Feyre's got 1 week a month in his court, whether she likes it or not. But this week away, it might just save her life, because in the Night Court, she gets something she hasn't had in months. And, oh yeah, there's also a brewing war, ancient magic, and more tension than an enemies to lovers fanfic. Well, my besties, A Court of Mist and Fury is about to flip the entire story on its head. So Feyre is back in the Spring Court, engaged to Tamlin, living in a beautiful estate, wearing expensive gowns, and absolutely miserable. Turns out, dying and coming back to life gives you some baggage. Who knew? She's got constant nightmares, and she wakes up every morning puking her guts out. But Tamlin thinks the best cure is to lock her inside the house like an expensive house plant. At first, Feyre thinks, okay, maybe this is love. Maybe he just wants to protect me. But then it's like, oh, wait, no, this is just straight up psychological imprisonment. But the real messed up thing, the wedding, big dress, hundreds of guests, picture-perfect fairy tale moment, and Feyre is mentally screaming for someone to save her, and wouldn't you know it, Rhys, High Lord of the Night Court and certified dramatic entrance enthusiast, pops in like, hey girlie, remember that bargain? Time to cash in. Tamlin loses his mind. Feyre is basically wheezing in relief, and before she can say I do, which she wasn't going to say anyway, Rhysand teleports her out of there. Tamlin is left fuming, Feyre is left confused, and we are left thriving, because finally we are free from the worst engagement party ever. Next stop, the Night Court. Alright, so Feyre's just been yeeted out of her own wedding by Rhysand, and now she's officially spending her first week in the mysterious Night Court. And let's just say, it's not what she expected. She was probably picturing something out of a horror movie. Spiky black castles, rivers of blood, Rhys cackling on a throne while lightning strikes behind him. Instead, it's nice, like really nice, warm air, jasmine-scented breezes, stars twinkling overhead. And Rhys, he's annoyingly charming, smug as ever, and oh yeah, completely unbothered by Tamlin's meltdown. Feyre's still on edge, though, because trauma. So when Rhys tells her she's not a prisoner and that she can do whatever she wants, she's like, sorry, what? Because back at the Spring Court, her choices were basically 1, look pretty in a dress, and 2, stay inside and look pretty in a dress. And then reading lessons, because guess what? Feyre's illiterate, and Rhys thinks this is the funniest thing ever. So naturally, he makes her practice by reading sentences like, Rhys is the most handsome High Lord in all the land. Feyre tries to set him on fire with her mind. Then there's the mental shield training, where Rhys keeps popping into her head at random times just to be a nuisance. The goal? Teach her to block unwanted thoughts. The reality? Rhys spends half the time just roasting her in her own brain. But the real game changer? Valeris. Rhys finally takes her to his real home, the secret city of the Night Court, aka the most beautiful place in existence. Imagine a city filled with music, artists, and breathtaking landscapes, completely untouched by war. Feyre might not know it yet, but she's about to find a new family, new strength, and maybe even a new love. But first, time for combat training, because let's be honest, this girl needs it. All right, it's time for Feyre to stop being a damsel in distress and start becoming a certified badass. Now that she's officially moved in, read, permanently avoiding Tamlin's nonsense, Rhys and his merry band of misfits, also known as the Inner Circle, decide it's time to unlock her mystery fae powers. Because, fun fact, when the 7 High Lords resurrected her, they each gave her a little piece of their magic. Meaning, Feyre is now rocking a custom magic sampler platter. Fire, ice, shadows, wind, and a sprinkle of mind control. It's time for combat training with Cassian. Cassian, Night Court's resident musclehead, has one job: turn Feyre from struggles to lift a butter knife to can yeet a fairy through a wall. Feyre absolutely hates it at first, but after weeks of sweating, swearing, and getting repeatedly knocked on her ass, she actually starts getting good. Then comes power training with Rhys, aka flirting with extra steps. Rhys teaches Feyre how to mentally shield herself, how to sense her new abilities, and, most importantly, how to mess with him right back. At one point, she even shoves him out of her head, and Rhys, being the menace he is, looks way too pleased about it. But before she can get too cocky, Rhys has a special test to see if she's ready for the big leagues. Stealing an object from the Weaver. Sounds simple? No. The Weaver is a blind, man-eating fey witch who sniffs out her victims instead of seeing them. Feyre's mission? Sneak into her creepy little cottage and retrieve something Rhys lost. And if she gets caught, the Weaver will turn her into a chew toy. Feyre barely makes it out, chimney climbing for the win, but when she does, Rhys is grinning like a proud dad. Turns out the object she stole, his mother's ring, he never actually lost it. He just wanted to see if she could retrieve something that mattered. Translation, she passed the test. All right, now that Feyre's officially leveled up, it's time for the real challenge: stopping the King of Hybern from wiping out the entire human world. Quick refresher. Hybern is the biggest, baddest fairy kingdom, and its king has one goal: destroy the wall that separates Feylands from the human realm. Because, colonization. But to do that, he needs the cauldron, an ancient magical artifact with the power to literally reshape reality. So, yeah, not ideal. The good news? There's a way to neutralize the cauldron's power. A spell found in the Book of Breathings, which, of course, is conveniently split in half. One half is hidden in the summer court. The other, guarded by a bunch of mortal queens who trust fairies about as much as we trust airline baggage fees. Mission 1, steal the first half from the summer court. Rhys, Feyre, and the gang head to the summer court, where Feyre puts on her best charming flirty thief persona to win over High Lord Tarquin. And by win over, we mean she spends several days pretending to be nice before straight up robbing him. The heist? A success. The aftermath? Awkward. But hey, one half of the book was acquired. Mission 2, convince the mortal queens to hand over the other half. This goes less well. Feyre and Rhys invite the queens to Feyre's old estate, hoping to show them Velaris as proof that not all Fey are evil. The queens? Not impressed. They refuse to hand over the book, probably because they also have trust issues. Understandable, given the whole fairies used to enslave humans thing. The group is devastated, but then, plot twist. The youngest queen secretly leaves them the other half of the book before she pieces out, warning them not to trust the others. And just when they think things are looking up, Feyre and Rhys are ambushed. Rhys gets impaled by ash arrows, Feyre barely escapes, and things go from bad to, oh no, this is really bad. Oh, and guess what? Hybern isn't done yet, because the worst betrayal is just around the corner. Alright, so Feyre and Rhys barely survive getting ambushed, and after some dramatic near-death moments, they finally make it back to Velaris. Feyre's shaken. Rhys is literally bleeding out, and just when she thinks she's safe, she suddenly feels something? A pull, a deep, unshakable connection. Something clicks in her chest, and that's when the bond snaps into place, like a divine, congratulations, your soulmate's message from the universe. Rhys, the smug, infuriatingly attractive High Lord, is her mate. Feyre? Not okay. Absolutely not okay with this revelation. And then she finds out he's known the entire time. Since under the mountain. Since she died and came back. And what did he do with that information? Nothing. He kept his mouth shut because he didn't want to pressure her. Yeah, full-blown existential crisis. Feyre nopes the hell out and disappears to a secluded cabin in the mountains to process this bombshell. Days pass. Feyre does what any emotionally wrecked person would do. paints her feelings, paces around dramatically, and contemplates yeeting herself into a river just to make the decision for her. And then Rhys shows up, looking like a drenched, heartbroken idiot who hasn't slept in days. That's when he finally tells her everything. How he knew she was his mate from the moment they met, how he suffered for years under Amarantha, how he thought she'd be happier with Tamlin, yikes, and how he didn't want to take away her choice. Feyre, completely wrecked, because for the first time she realizes she loves him back. Ooh, romanticy moment. And then they mate. And when I say mate, I mean they mate. Like, fade to black, but we all know what's happening levels of mating. But just when they finally get their moment of happiness, reality slaps them in the face. The King of Hybern is making moves, and it's time for one final high-risk mission. Objective: infiltrate Hybern's castle and nullify the cauldron's magic. It's dangerous. It's probably a trap, but at this point, Feyre is done running. And so, with her mate, her newfound family, and all the power she's been training to control, she heads straight into the belly of the beast. And oh boy, things do not go as planned. All right, so Feyre, Rhys, and the squad have one job: sneak into Hybern's castle, use the Book of Breathings to nullify the cauldron, and get out before anyone realizes they were even there. Simple, right? Yeah, maybe in another fantasy. The second they step foot inside the castle, things are already feeling a little too easy, and that's because it's a trap. Before they can even think about running, the King of Hybern appears, looking way too smug for someone who probably smells like centuries-old dust. And he's not alone. The Mortal Queens show up, the ones who were supposed to be neutral. Yeah, turns out they're total sellouts and have been working with Hybern this whole time. Feyre is fuming. Rhys is holding back a murder attempt, but it gets worse. Because then Tamlin walks in. Yep, Feyre's ex-fiancé, the same guy who locked her in a house, is standing there looking very pleased with himself. Why? Because Tamlin made a deal with Hybern. In exchange for Feyre's safe return, imprisonment, you mean, he let Hybern's forces use the Spring Court as a military base. And he actually thinks Feyre is going to happily waltz back with him. Feyre is so done. But before she can even scream at him, the King of Hybern drops the final bombshell. He's got Feyre's sisters, Nesta and Elaine, and guess what? He's about to throw them into the cauldron to turn them into Fae. Feyre is losing her mind again, but she can't do anything as her sisters are forcibly shoved into the cauldron. Elaine comes out delicate, shaking, and confused, but Nesta comes out looking like she's ready to kill everyone in the room. Oh, and while Feyre is trying not to scream, Lucien recognizes Elaine as his mate. Because sure, why not add one more dramatic twist? At this point, things are so bad they couldn't possibly get worse. Except, of course, they do. The king binds Rhys and Feyre's powers, leaving them helpless. Feyre's panicking. And just when all hope seems lost, Feyre does the most unhinged, reckless thing imaginable. She pretends to switch sides. Yep. Feyre acts like the perfect broken little victim and convinces Tamlin that she wants to go back with him. She spins a brilliant lie, pretending that Rhys tricked her, used her, and that she just wants to go home. And just like that, the king lets her go. Feyre leaves with Tamlin, seemingly betraying Rhys and her newfound family. But what no one knows, she just became the Night Court's greatest spy. As soon as they winnow out of Hybern's castle, Tamlin is thrilled, thinking his poor, manipulated Feyre is finally safe again. Lucien, on the other hand, he's looking real suspicious because he's not buying this act for a second. Meanwhile, back in the Night Court, the squad is reeling from what just happened. Rhys, he's putting on a strong face, but inside, he's absolutely losing it. His mate, his actual mate, just walked away with the worst person imaginable. And there's nothing he can do about it, or so they think. Because plot twist, before Feyre left, she secretly broke every single magic ward keeping them trapped. Meaning, Rhys and the inner circle are free. And when they get back to Valeris, Rhys drops the biggest bombshell yet. With a smug, knowing smirk, he says, Feyre Archeron is High Lady of the Night Court. Yep. While Tamlin was busy being a possessive disaster, Rhys and Feyre made things official. Feyre isn't just his mate. She's his equal, his co-ruler. And now she's inside enemy territory, ready to burn it to the ground from the inside.